Welcome to Explore Classroom. My name is Andrea Villarreal Rodriguez, but you can call me Andy. I am a National Geographic Young Explorer, a storyteller, and your host for today. I am talking to you live from Monterrey, a city in northern Mexico. We're so excited to have you joining us for another event in the Explore Classroom storytelling series. If you tuned in into our last episode, welcome back. And if this is your first time joining us, we are so happy you're here. Today, we will continue on our journey to learn about the power of storytelling from National Geographic explorers and to inspire you to connect to the stories in your own communities. National Geographic's approach to storytelling is all about making an impact by telling the true stories around us in order to open hearts, change minds, and inspire action. Throughout the storytelling series, we'll discover how our explorers do just that. Before we get into today's lesson, I'd like to give a shout out to all the classes that have completed the pre-mission or Mission 1. Go ahead and cheer if you see your school name. Well done, classes. We absolutely love seeing examples of your work and learning about your progress from your teachers. If you do not see your school name, teachers, there is still time to submit the mission completion form for previous missions. After today's event, complete Mission 2 with your students and submit the form before our next event to have your school name added to the shoutout list. Now, let's get into the event. Today, we will be joined by not one, but two amazing explorers. Filmmaker Darian Woehr and photographer Hailey Sadler are documentary storytellers who co-founded the Home Collective project, which explores the idea of home and what it means to different people. They are passionate about documenting and sharing stories that go beyond the surface to explore what connects us all as humans who call this planet our shared home. Darian's home is in San Francisco, California, on the west coast of the United States. Hailey's home is in Washington, D.C., on the east coast of the United States. They are currently working together on a really cool documentary in Boa Vista, Brazil. Their work takes them to many locations around the world, and they've built strong connections with communities in places like Buenos Aires, Argentina, Navajo Nation, Cox's Bazar in Bangladesh, and the Serengeti in Tanzania, to name a few. These places have become like second homes to them, and you can see all of them on the map of the screen. Today, Darian and Hailey will be joining us live to tell us more about their project, but first, let's take a peek at what some of the stories have documented look like. Wow, that was such a beautiful and interesting montage. It really captures how diverse the human experience can be. I am so very excited to welcome Darian and Hailey to Explore Classroom to share more about their work and answer questions from our audience. Darian and Hailey, welcome to the show. Hi, how are you?
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for having us. We're so happy to be here.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining. Could you tell us a bit more about who you are and what does it mean to be a documentary storyteller?
Absolutely. So my name is Darian, and I'm really excited to be here today with Hailey. And again, we are just so happy to be here. We cannot wait to answer your questions and to get to know you all. So, me and Haley are National Geographic explorers, documentary storytellers, and together we co founded a storytelling organization called the Home Collective.
Hi, everybody. I'm so happy to be here today with you and share this classroom with you. Like Darian said, my name is Haley, and our project is called the Home Collective. We use photo and video storytelling to explore this idea of home and what it means to people all around the world. Before we get deeper into that, though, we want to share with you a little bit about what it means to be a documentary storyteller and what it looks like when we're out in the field creating our projects. So we're going to share a little bit of behind the scenes footage with you now.
We absolutely love getting to meet people from different cultures and backgrounds through our job. Every day is a completely new adventure. We've trekked through jungles and climbed really tall trees, like you can see here in Brazil. We've filmed whales from a tiny plane in Alaska. We've even camped in the middle of the desert to get the perfect shot. No 2 days are the same.
To us, how a story is told is just as important as the story itself. And that means we try to take our time and make sure that everyone around us feels safe and comfortable while we're working. We love collaborating with teams and communities and trying to make sure that everybody involved has an equal voice and real ownership in the stories that we're telling together. And it's funny, actually, so many of the most important moments of our storytelling happen off camera as we're making time to have meaningful conversations, listen to community members, build trust, and sometimes just have fun with the people who are sharing their stories with us.
That was incredibly inspiring. Taking the time to learn about someone's story, like you mentioned, is really important. And the behind the scenes part is a part that is not often talked about. And I'm so glad you both are able to share it with us today. Students, before we learn more about Darian and Haley's project, the Home Collective, I've got a question for you. Teachers, please get close to your keyboard so you can answer for your class. In a moment, you'll see a poll on your screen. Select the answer that gets the most votes from your class. Our guests today focus on telling stories about the idea of home and what it means to people across the globe. My question for you is, why do you think it's important for Darian and Haley to document what home means? And so we have answer A, to create one definition for everyone to use. Answer B, to determine the best place to live. Answer C, to know housing prices in different areas. Or answer D, to connect people through their common meaning of home. Again, the question is, why do you think it's important for Darian and Haley to document what home means? And I'd like to invite Darian and Haley to tell us what is the correct answer.
Good job, everyone. The correct answer is D. So, home is an idea we can all connect with, even if where we're from and what home looks like is a little bit different to each and every one of us. We all have somewhere, something, or someone that makes us feel at home.
Thank you, Darian. And now that we know why you want to explore what home means to people across the globe, can you tell us a bit more about your project, the Home Collective?
Of course, we'll be sharing you some pictures while we talk so you can see a little bit of what we see when we're out making our projects. And our mission is we want to document what home means to our generation growing up in a changing world. We look around us at the world today and we see increased rates of migration, housing shortages, displacement, climate change, and conflict. And all of this means that our relationship to home is constantly evolving or changing.
So, to us at the Home Collective, home is something that knows no boundaries or borders. No matter where you come from or what your background is, everyone thinks of something when they think of home. Home can be a person, a place, a song, a certain food or recipe, a memory. You can even find home in yourself.
And our big idea that motivates us is this idea that our shared human relationship to home can connect us all. and it can act as a bridge even across really different viewpoints and different experiences. And understanding and caring about each other's stories are so important because you are the ones who are going to help make tomorrow a better world. You guys who are on the call here today with us are tomorrow's explorers, leaders, storytellers, and change makers.
Exactly. So now that you've heard a little bit from us, we really want to hear from you. Let's think about what home means together. We've been showing a lot of pictures of what home looks like, but we have more than one sense, right? We have 5 different senses that can help experience the world around us. So now on the screen, you're going to see a picture of the 5 senses. We have sight, hearing, taste, touch, and smell. Pick one of these senses and share one thing that comes to mind when you think of home. For example, when I think of my home, I think of the birds chirping in the morning that I can hear from my childhood bedroom window. What about you, Haley? What do you think of?
I would pick the sense of smell. I grew up by the water, so when I think of home, I think about that smell of salt water on the wind in the summertime.
Ooh, I love that answer. All right, we'll stay quiet for a few seconds and let you tell your teachers what you think.
Wow, I love all of these so much. I'm seeing so many great ones. The smell of flowers, fresh cut grass, your mom's pie, your dad's food, the feeling of hugs. There's so many beautiful ones. And I think it's a great example of how diverse our ideas of home can be, but also how there's so many ideas that can connect us and that we can all share and find connection through. So that's really, really beautiful. We thank you guys for sharing that with us. We ask this question all over the world when we travel and when we make our projects. So we want to share a few of the answers that we get with you now.
So, home is actually a very difficult word for me to define.
It's the way in the morning that my mom still lights a candle and sets out the cream for whoever creeps downstairs first to make themselves coffee.
Home is a place where you feel joy, where you feel settled, comfortable, confident.
Home is also where I can let my thoughts and words flow freely without fear and generally just feel safe.
That's a beautiful video, and I really loved the dynamic we did here in the class because I see so many wonderful sights and smells, and and overall really cool senses in the chat here. And so I really thank you for that opportunity. And before I learn more, there is a word that I want to make sure that everyone here understands that Darian and Haley already mentioned. So let's do a quick poll to check. Teachers, please get close to your keyboard so that you can answer for your class. In a moment, you will see the poll on the screen, so select the answer that gets the most votes from your class. And so part of what the Home Collective covers are stories of people who have been displaced. My question for you is, what does displacement mean? Displacement is when a person A has to rearrange their furniture, B travels out of town and can't find their way home, C has to leave home because of a difficult situation, or D gets lost on the way to a new place. Again, the question is, what does displacement mean? And you're correct. The correct answer is C. And displacement is when a person has to leave their home because of a difficult situation, such as war or natural disaster. And now that we have a basic understanding of what displacement means, let's go back to Darian and Hailey to hear more about the recent film, We Exist in Memory.
We are so excited to share a little bit of our film with you. Basically, it's about a grandmother and a granddaughter who are both living in displacement. So again, displacement means when you are forced to leave a place that you would normally live in, that you consider to be your home, due to circumstances outside of your control. So me and Haley have been working in Brazil in Boa Vista, where you saw on the map at the beginning of this session. We've been working in Brazil for the past 3 years, collaborating with a community called the Woehr, who are indigenous Venezuelan people currently displaced from their home.
And our project shows a grandmother and a granddaughter sharing stories of what home means to them from their very different experiences. And this is what we call the intergenerational passage of memory, or memory being passed between two generations. Think about hearing a story from someone in your family or your community that is older than you. And as your brain is listening to this story, you're actually creating your own memories. And this is so important because sharing memories and sharing stories connects people to cultures and communities and this sense of home, even amidst displacement or being far away from home. So now we're excited to show a little clip from our film with you.
Abuela, contame sobre este lugar.
We're so happy we got to share that little bit of the clip with you, demonstrating how the grandmother and the granddaughter interact and share, again, those like intergenerational passage of memories and stories by the granddaughter asking a question like, Grandma, tell me about home. So even if we come from different places and backgrounds, we all have some sort of home and some story that's really important to share with each other. So go out in the world and remember that no matter where we call home, everybody has a story to share. Each of us have our own story. So ask questions, learn to listen, be curious about the people around you, and you never know how your stories might connect.
I love that so much. Our hope with this project and with all of our projects at the Home Collective is just to remind us all of the importance of sharing stories and the power that stories have to connect us more deeply to ourselves, to each other, and to the world around us.
Thank you, Darian and Hailey, for sharing that beautiful fragment of your film with us. The intimacy and the empathy you have with the communities you work with really shines through. And students, it's almost time for the Q&A part of the show. But before that, I have two questions for you. So teachers, please click close to your keyboard so you can type in your students' answers. Darren and Hailey have talked about how different things make people think of home. And home can be the smell of your favorite food, like I saw in the chat, or a place of comfort. And sometimes, like Darian said, a community you are a part of can make a place feel like home. So, I want you to take a moment and think about a community that makes you feel warm and cozy. Then share with me here in the chat, what is the community that makes a place feel like home to you? For example, it can be a sports team, a religious group, your friends, your neighbors, your classroom, anything you might think of. So I'll stay quiet for a few seconds and let you all type your answers. Good job, everybody. I see so many cool answers popping up here in the chat. And now I have a follow-up question. If you could ask someone in that community what home means to them, who would you choose to talk to? Teachers, please type your students' answers into the chat so that Darian and Hailey can see. Again, the question is, if you could ask someone in that community you just shared what home means to them, who would you choose to talk to? Again, I'll stay quiet and let you all type your answers. Thank you so much for all your answers. I see so many beautiful answers coming in. A lot of teachers, a lot of coaches, mom, dad, grandma, relatives, cousins, even people in this Zoom chat, siblings, friends, aunties. I even saw some animals over here in the chat. Friends on soccer teams and other sports teams, a bunny. I actually encourage you to go find your person and ask them what home means. Just like Darian and Hailey said, you never know how your stories might connect. For those of you joining us for the storytelling series, we have a mission for you. And I want you to keep that community and the person that you just identified in mind as you complete this mission. And this mission is to spotlight stars in your community. And you will learn to identify important individuals in your community who have a story to tell. And I'll tell you a bit more about this later. But now it's the time you have all been waiting for, the time to ask Darian and Hailey your questions. If you're watching on YouTube, send us your question through the chat bar, and we record all of them as they're sent in, so please only send each question once. And teachers, please let us know who's asking the question so we can give your class or your student a shout out. Great. And on that note, we have a couple of questions on YouTube that fall under the same general idea, which is how many years have you been doing this work, and what motivates you to keep going?
That's a great question. Let's see. I've been doing this work for a little over about like 6 years now. I started out as a journalist and sort of pivoted into filmmaking, and they're really similar, right? But sort of the time that I'm able to take to tell a story varied, and that's sort of the shift in my career that I had. And what motivates me to keep going is so many things. One, situations like this, where we get to talk to future storytellers and the future generations and just seeing all of the amazing ideas and questions that you all have. That's really motivating to me. And then also just working with people from around the world and seeing how many wonderful and brave and important stories that there are out there. I just like I could live 100 lifetimes and not tell them all. So every day is just really exciting, and I feel super motivated to keep going and keep uncovering stories.
My answer is really similar because I've also been doing this for about 6 years now. And I think what motivates me is just like the endless possibilities of it. As long as you're curious, like there's never a moment where you're going to be bored. There's always something to learn. There's always someone to meet. And I think the fact that we get invited into communities to help partner with them and tell their stories is something that keeps me motivated, because as long as people are partnering with us and collaborating with us and want us to be part of their storytelling journey, then we want to keep doing it. And so I think that's the exciting thing about this work, is that there's really no end in sight. You can constantly keep exploring, keep discovering, keep asking questions, keep learning.
And with so many stories to tell, Sakina over on YouTube asks, how did you get this idea to focus on home or dreams? Or how do you choose like a thematic focus to guide your work? And Casey wants to know, when do you think that work is complete? Like, when can you move on to another theme or topic? Um, Tell us all about that.
These are both such great questions, and I think questions that we are constantly asking ourselves. So, how the first question is basically how we chose our theme, like how we chose to focus on home. And my answer would be Hailey and I were working separately at first, and we were both inadvertently telling stories about home. And when we came together, it was right when the pandemic hit. And don't you remember how we all, we had to take a break from school and work. We had to, stay at home and shelter in place. And during that time, me and Hailey were just beginning to work together, and we were thinking a lot about our own homes and our relationships with our families in that home, and maybe, moving back into your childhood home after going to college or far away. There were just so many new dynamics, and we were like, if we're thinking about home in this new way, I bet other people are too. So on social media, we posted a question asking people how their relationship to home was changing during the pandemic. And we got so many responses from like all around the world, from so many people we didn't know. And we ended up making a film about that. But I think me and Hailey just had a moment where we were like, oh my gosh, this question of home has so much potential. This is a big question that we could take lifetimes to answer. And so in that moment, we sort of decided to keep pursuing this question of home.
And then to kind of answer the other question of how we know when a project is done, That's a really fantastic question, and I think it's a really difficult one, to be honest. You have to kind of feel that it's time to put it out into the world because as much as you want to continue documenting and spending time with people endlessly, at a certain point, you also want that film to have impact. We think about that a lot. What is this film or this project going to actually do out in the world, and how is it going to reach people? And so at a certain point, you have to decide, okay, we have enough. We've done justice to the story. We want to let it go, get out in the world so that people like you guys can interact with it, can ask questions, and it can impact people there. But I will say we never really get finished because we are always very close with the people that we've worked with. So we keep up with them on WhatsApp and we, chat with them on Facebook and we continue that relationship. So even if the project is over, I think the friendships that we've been able to make through the projects are never over, which is really lovely.
We now have a question from Joy on YouTube who asks, do you need to go to college to be a documentarian? And what did you both study during this period?
That's a really good question. And I think, if you ask a lot of people might have different answers. But I would say, from my perspective, you don't have to go to school specifically for documentary filmmaking or for journalism, for any of those things. But it is really important to be a learner and to understand what you're getting into. And so you do not have to have a degree in it. My degree is in political science and international relations, but it is really, really important to do your research and to study to make sure that you are approaching stories ethically, with journalistic ethics, but also with collaborative ethics and all of these different things, and to make sure that you are doing justice to the stories of the people who you're asking to share their time and their stories with you. So I think you can do a lot of that learning on your own. There's so many resources out there, and no degree is necessary, but you want to make sure that you have put in a lot of effort and thought and study and learning to see what people have done in the past that works really well and what mistakes people have made, so that hopefully you can build off that and continue to make work that's even more beautiful and even more impactful and even more ethical than the work that's come before us.
Thanks, Hailey. And Darian, what did you study?
Yeah, I totally agree with everything Hailey said. I studied global studies and photojournalism, again, because I wanted to be a journalist. So it's a little bit different, but I think I learned the values that I hold with me today. And that was more important than learning the technical skills, like how to operate a camera and things like that. You can totally learn on your own. Ask a friend, go on YouTube. But like Hailey was saying, make sure that you're informed before going into a community. Just because you know how to work a camera does not give you the right to just suddenly point that camera in someone's face and become a storyteller. What really matters when you're a storyteller is making sure that you're a listener and that you're curious and that you're respectful and that you really take the time to learn about somebody and make sure that there is a need and a want for you to tell someone's story before actually doing it.
I think it's really impressive how you blend both research and storytelling, because also in the work we just saw, I think your values really shine through. So it's an excellent example for all of our students here today. We have a question from Mayra on YouTube who is wondering, growing up, what was home to you?
So many different things. So the question was, growing up, what was home to me and to Hailey? So like I said, I grew up in DC, but most of my family came from this like really small town in rural North Carolina. So often I felt like I had two homes. And when I was in one place, I missed the other place. And now they're both such a big part of me. So I'm really lucky to be able to call more than one place home. And I think more than the location, it was really about the people. It was, having my grandparents and my cousins and my aunts and uncles in North Carolina. So I think my answer would just be growing up, it was where my family was.
And for me, I grew up in the middle of the woods with a lot of nature surrounding me. And so spent a lot of time in the trees, playing in the trees growing up, playing in the water. And so to me, even though I call DC home now and it does feel like home, there's just something for me about being in nature, being away from the city, being surrounded by trees or being by the water. And that's where I really feel like I can let out my breath and I feel, okay, I'm at home.
Thank you, Darren and Haley. It's so wonderful to see how different elements besides place evoke this feeling of home, and I think it translates into your work really well. Unfortunately, we're running out of time, students, but we would like to ask both of our wonderful guests today to answer one last question. And that question is, what final message do you have for all the student explorers tuning in today?
Yeah, well, we just thank you all so much for being with us and for your incredible questions and for your attention. I would say that no matter where we call home, we all have a story worth sharing. Stories are a really powerful way to connect us to each other. So, all of us should just remember to stay curious, to ask questions, and to listen to those around you. Stories are absolutely everywhere. So, start exploring.
Thank you guys so much. It was so much fun to join you today. We're so happy we got to share this classroom with you.
Thank you again to you both for joining us today and for inspiring us with your beautiful work and that really thoughtful final message. Adios. Muchas gracias. I know that Darren speaks Spanish. Thank you to all the students for engaging with us and for your thoughtful questions. And thank you, teachers, for bringing your classes to our show. For those of you joining us as part of the storytelling series, we have a mission for you. This week, your mission is to spotlight stars in your community. It's a wonderful opportunity for you to consider the various communities that you belong to and to identify the individuals who play an important role in building and supporting those communities. As we mentioned here in the chat, you may consider family members, teachers, coaches, or even first responders or public figures. Teachers, please use the educator guide to learn more about the mission and submit the mission completion form to keep us updated on your students' progress. Just a friendly reminder that there will be no event next week, but we will be back on the following Thursday, the February 20th, to welcome explorer Paul Salopek to the show. The legendary Paul will share about his long-term project, the Out of Eden Walk, with an emphasis on connection. How can we rediscover our world by slowing down, observing carefully, and meaningfully connecting with others? Lastly, we would love to hear from you. So teachers, please take a moment to fill out this quick survey and let us know how you enjoyed today's show. The link is now in the chat. And you can also share about your experience on social media using the hashtag #ExplorerClassroom. From all of us at National Geographic, have a wonderful day, stay curious, and keep exploring. We'll see you next time on Explorer Classroom. Bye!